I'm going to spend the next 10 minutes keeping you from wasting your next 10 months as a small unit leader. Welcome to today's episode of the Small Unit Leadership Accelerator. If you're looking for career changing tools for your leadership toolbox, you're in the right place. Thanks very much for investing time into making yourself a better leader. The better you are leading, the better we are at winning. In today's episode, I'm going to help you save a lot of people's time that you could be spending developing your team and accomplishing the mission. I'm going to tell you a story that plays out in platoons all across the Marine Corps. It's August 1st, and your platoon has just finished a real burnout summer. There were tough field exercises and mind-numbing inspections. There was a change of command ceremony for the new battalion commander, and there were hours of rehearsals. Your company commander was actually just fired because of mismanaged maintenance and poor unit readiness, and probably because he also wasn't that great of a leader. Though, in his defense, he really tried hard to trust and empower the platoon leadership teams, and they let a lot of platoon business slip through the cracks. Your new company commander and first sergeant sit you down and tell you, your platoon is not doing very well. It has a reputation of both not getting the job done and being the home of the terminal lances. None of your Marines are reenlisting, probably because life sucks in your organization. You need to turn this around by next summer so we aren't in this position again next year. By the end of this episode, I'm going to tell you how to turn this team around in the next 10 months. I'm going to break down this problem into two root causes. One, the platoon didn't know what work to do to accomplish the mission. And two, the platoon didn't set up its Marines to be successful in the mission and in life. Here's where I think you should start. You have to treat the Marines and the mission with the same reverence. However, the mission doesn't change based on your relationship with it. People do. And like all people, Marines know if they are valued by their leaders. If leaders treat them like interchangeable warm bodies, it's over. But if your goal is to understand what success in life looks like to each Marine, you'll be much more likely to connect. And it's so important to connect so you can align in leadership and motivation. If you don't get that right, it's going to be a battle of wills, fighting with your Marines to get them in line to do the work to accomplish the mission. In order to get minimum effort, effectiveness, and discipline, you'll be fighting uphill in the snow. However, if you do lead your Marines in a way that sets them up for success in life, then setting them up for success in their career and the mission will be obvious intermediate steps to get there. Going backwards from success in life to career success to mission success, the next step backwards is preparation for promotion and the early and consistent preparation it takes to do excellent work this year, this month, and this week. I'm going to tell you about just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to evaluations. Evaluations are extraordinarily important for bringing your Marines to the point of excellence. Excellence in the mission and excellence in life. Evaluations are critical for finding and promoting the Marines who will be ready to lead our Marine Corps into the next decade and beyond. You can literally shape our future by helping select the best to lead our Marine Corps. Promotion, increased authority, earned respect, and better pay are cornerstones of motivation for Marines to drive toward excellence. And promotions are earned by way of evaluations. And oh, by the way, evaluations also help us understand which Marines should not be leading us in the future and start helping them to the door. When this platoon performed so poorly last year, here's where I think leadership failed. The Marines were not given mission tasks as part of their evaluation criteria. I'm not talking about tactical tasks like conducting an ambush. I'm talking about enduring responsibilities that required specific knowledge, care, and initiative, like managing maintenance, training, or equipment accountability. These are the platoon functions which make or break unit readiness and mission accomplishment, but they can't be managed by a platoon of Gen Pop Marines led by an all-knowing staff NCO or officer. These need to be delegated and managed by NCOs. Since no one's evaluation criteria included this work, it didn't get done. The leaders failed to use the Marine Corps' incentive structure correctly to get results. This is a failure in alignment. Instead, it's August 1st, time for semi-annual JPES evaluations. And now, after muddling through a grueling series of unit performance setbacks, you now struggle to look back and write credible evaluations that get your Marines promoted. It's too late. You've been misaligned for too long. What if at the end of last summer's evaluation period, the platoon commander and staff NCOIC made sure all of the long-term platoon work was divided among the NCOs, like training, administration, safety, and equipment readiness? What if then the leadership team had crafted a set of billet expectations custom for each of the NCOs, which made those unique expectations and responsibilities clear? What if in those billet expectations, the platoon's leadership team wrote down specific achievable work to do, things to learn, and how to demonstrate success? Would you agree that this would result in Marines taking more initiative? Would you assume that operations would be better planned and executed? Might you guess that morale would increase? I 100% agree with you. Plus, I would add, evaluations would be a lot easier to write, and you can get more of your people promoted. Every time you give a Marine an enduring responsibility and they are successful in accomplishing a mission task, and you evaluate them as being successful, and it leads to promotions and awards, you have become a more excellent leader. Your system of leadership is working. This is one of the most gratifying aspects of leadership. So, dividing out the platoon's work and delegating it is proactive and high return on investment. But it's not easy, or else everyone would be doing it. And writing is probably not your favorite thing to do, but what you're doing here is building leadership structure, and it has very high payoff. Similarly, when billet descriptions are generic and Marine performance is average, the supervisor who's performing the counseling will have a lot of difficulty providing meaningful feedback about long-term performance or contribution to the mission. The more leadership-oriented NCO will coach the junior Marine in setting some goals or will make good coaching efforts. But without a consistent long-term expectation, those goals will inevitably be forgotten when the team's leadership changes seemingly every other month. This revolving door in small unit leadership is another difficult barrier to getting long-term results and worthwhile evaluations of junior Marines. A custom long-term billet expectation for each junior leader is very resistant to the revolving door problem, as long as the platoon leadership team keeps a good grip on it. Every NCO or staff NCO which may move in to supervise that Marine should get access to his or her long-term billet description and learn what the expectation is of that Marine. The unfortunate reality is that in low-functioning platoons, the new supervisor just gives them new tasks in a totally new direction. That task and direction may be leaving the platoon commander exposed to a risk area like safety or equipment readiness, which up till now did have good leadership coverage. Now that your platoon leadership team has taken all of the platoon work and divided it into chunks to delegate around the team, and you've given everyone their new written billet expectations, now it's time to develop the team. We talked about how counseling is pretty meaningless when there's no billet expectations and no mission tie-in. Now that we have that, it's now possible to have a system of counseling which actually gets Marines talking about mission performance. Paths to improvement become clear. Average Marines will have tangible long-term performance goals to achieve. Many rounds of observation and feedback all but guarantee improvement. For example, staff NCO says to motor TNCO, I know you're supposed to make sure that the platoon's trucks are all mission ready at all times. I just saw 2 flat tires in the motor pool this morning. You need to stay ahead of that. Walk the line every day, and if you see a maintenance issue, handle it before I need to get involved. Do you have all the time and resources you need to do this job right? Do you need any more guidance from me? No? Carry on. Boom. Feedback and improvement. And repeat as often as possible. Now, at the end of the reporting period, you'll be able to attest to how the Marine accomplished meaningful, mission-aligned goals. This will win a lot of points with the first sergeant in chain of command. When you write an evaluation that gives facts about how a junior Marine did work expected of someone much more senior, it's a really great time to look at the expression of disbelief when they come back and say, did this Marine really single-handedly build and run a plan to ensure all Marines in the platoon got their PME, rifle qual, advanced MOS school, and annual training complete on time? Did that Marine really single-handedly build and run a plan to ensure that 0 equipment ever appeared on a past due hit list for preventative maintenance, modifications, or calibrations? All with nothing more than coaching from the platoon leadership team? These are the written bullets that get junior leaders promoted and awarded, and they clearly demonstrate excellent mission performance. Similarly, by comparing actual performance against the expected performance, leaders can hold below average Marines accountable for tangible failures. For example, Staff NCOIC says to platoon sergeant, hey, we've talked about this every month and it doesn't seem to change. Our Marines are missing medical appointments. The battalion commander's walkthrough of our barracks found way more discrepancies than any other platoon, and 3 of our Marines have past due government travel charge card bills. You were told to handle this in your initial counseling and in 3 written counseling since, and it's interfering with the platoon's mission. You are hereby relieved of your duties. Written counselings, while onerous, are very powerful for providing evidence that seemingly average Marines rate elevated marks and below average Marines rate derogatory marks. These average, above average, and derogatory evaluation marks are critical for rewarding deserving Marines, improving the morale of the unit, and strengthening the institution. Written billet expectations and written counselings take effort, but they are 2 core essential functions of leadership. During the remainder of the Small Unit Leadership Accelerator, we will give plenty of source material for crafting meaningful, long-term, mission-oriented billet expectations, which the platoon commander needs accomplished to protect the platoon's viability to deploy and operate in combat. Now it's time to turn around our troubled platoon from the beginning of the episode, starting on August 2nd, the day the new JPES evaluation period begins. Step 1. Make sure you know each NCO and above, at least if you are at the platoon level. Spend at least 1 hour with each one. Do far more listening than speaking. Know what they want out of life, the Marine Corps, and this tour of duty. Find out what work they do best or what brings them the most meaning. Be a human being. Afford psychological safety. Be a good listener. Thank them for candid or critical comments. No judging. Step 2, find out from your boss, your subordinates, your peers, and your doctrine what 100% success looks like for your unit. Determine all the work it takes to get there, which is no easy feat. Be a continuous learner. Step 3, break the unit's work down into chunks that can be delegated. Step 4, do what you can to match each chunk of work to the right Marine, based on their strengths first, then skills, then personal preference in that order. Step 5, write out all of the expectations you have for the Marine doing that work and make it clear what A+ performance looks like. Step 6, sit down with that Marine again and give them the official initial counseling where you tell them their new job and talk them through all those written expectations. Step 7, give as much training, guidance, and coaching as your time allows. Go be present, supervise, and touch base frequently. Step 8, judge the effectiveness of the work and give feedback often. Make it safe to fail and be candid about what to fix to get better. Maybe a Marine identified a maintenance issue before it impacted operations. Maybe a Marine stopped a mishap from injuring someone and destroying equipment. When a Marine is effective, write it down and use it to justify commendations and awards. Reward and reinforce success. Step 9, with many repetitions of training, coaching, judging effectiveness, and providing candid feedback, you should expect your Marines to have mastered their mission tasks. They should be able to operate independently, doing the right work at the right time because they know it's what needs to be done. Step 10, as you watch the mission get accomplished in 100 small ways by a platoon of Marines, then you'll have plenty of evidence to justify why a disproportional number of your Marines deserve to get promoted. And when Marines do meaningful work in a successful unit, they're 1,000 times more likely to re-enlist. And when they move on, they take their talents to improve the next corner of the Marine Corps. Before we wrap it up, I want to give you my top book recommendation for improving your ability to give direction, coach, and give feedback. Radical Candor by Kim Scott teaches the rest of society what a good Marine leader already knows about being frank and honest. There's a slight twist. This book is just as much about being a good listener and drawing candid feedback out from the junior members of the team who might otherwise do their best to fade in the background. This is an excellent read for anyone who is leading a team, especially at the beginning of their leadership journey. This book was written pretty late in my career, but I wish I'd had it a lot earlier. I have a ton more to say about work culture and setting conditions for teams to thrive, but for now, you'll just have to stay tuned. As we close, remember, I want you to be the type of leader that gets 1% better every day. One way to do that is to always be starving for 360-degree feedback. Don't be a coward about receiving constructive criticism, welcome it, and use it to make you better. Your Marines in the mission deserve your max potential. And while you're at it, roast me in the comments, give me feedback and make me better. I'm just here to help speed up the pace at which small unit leaders learn, lead from the front, and thrive. Hopefully, with your help, we can make this learning more accessible to more new leaders and make our Marine Corps a better place to serve our nation. If you get value out of this Small Unit Leadership Accelerator, find someone else that can benefit from it as well and pass it along. Links to video and audio forms of this accelerator can be found in the show notes. In conclusion, during this episode, we spent 10 minutes to talk about how to set up the next 10 months for success. Coming up next, the Risk Transfer Machine, where I talk to you about how powerful it is to know what the Marine Corps already does to manage risk and how you can leverage that knowledge in a simple 5-step risk transfer process. Stay tuned for this and more billet expectations for the Marines in a typical platoon to ensure that there's engaged leadership attention on all of the different functions needed to protect the unit's viability to deploy and operate in combat. Since you're serious about being a catalyst for your team's growth and success, I'll expect to see you there.